live and direct from the Golden State. It's intelligent talk media, the Denice Gary Show. Now, here's Denice Gary.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Denice Gary Show. As always, it's just a privilege and honor to be with all of you. I have with me a special guest on the broadcast. We're going to begin with her today. Her name is Tammy Rossman Benjamin. Tammy Rossman Benjamin is a former lecturer at the University of California in Santa Cruz. She is the co-founder and director of AMCA. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Tammy. AMCA?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
AMCA Initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a nonprofit organization that is devoted to investigating, documenting, and educating people about the horrific anti-Semitism that we see today in America on university campuses across the country. She was nominated for Jewish Hero of the Year by the Jewish Federation of North America. In 2011, she was named one of 2013's bright pro-Israel lights on U.S. campuses by the Jewish press. Tammy Rossman Benjamin has written several articles and opinion pieces that have been published in the New York Daily News, the Jewish News Service, Jewish Journal of Los Angeles, Al Jaminer, Independent Sentinel, Jewish Voice, Jewish Post, Opinion, and many others. Welcome to the broadcast, Tammy. It's just an honor to have you here today.
Thanks, Denise. It's great to be on your show again.
Thank you. I was really saddened by an article that I read in The Hill. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find this article. It's called Anti-Zionist Attacks at Universities Have Increased, but yet schools are not doing anything to combat this. And again, this is on The Hill, a publication that was in the op-ed section. Tammy, before we begin with this op-ed that's very informative, and I appreciate it so much, tell us a little bit about the work of AMCA.
Well, one of the things that you, when you talked about our mission, the one piece that you forgot was that we, perhaps our biggest mission besides investigating and documenting and monitoring is combating. That's in fact our most important mission, and that's why we do the investigation and the monitoring, because there is a problem, and that's what we discover in what we monitor, and we feel as an organization that's uniquely focused on just one thing, which is campus anti-Semitism. I think we're the only, maybe one of two organizations that focus on the campus, but the only one that does what we do in terms of grassroots advocacy. That we feel like we're uniquely positioned to actually make a difference. And that's what we're trying to do. That's why we're in business, because my co-founder and I are both former lecturers at the University of California. Between us, we have about 50 years of experience there, so we sort of know the university inside and out. I was at UC Santa Cruz and my colleague at UCLA, and we understand how universities work, how they tick, if you will. And so we realize that it's not, you can't just sort of go in there like a bull in a china shop and say, oh, you have to fix this, you have to fire this professor, you have to get rid of this student group. We feel like we have to be really strategic and reasonable with an understanding of how the university works to be able to actually make a difference. And we believe that we can make a difference. As bad as things get, and I think that they really are increasingly creating a hostile climate for Jewish students, primarily, but not only, but primarily around the issue of Israel and the Middle East. So that spills over onto campus. It's not just rhetoric. We're not just talking about saying bad things about Israel,
right,
or even horrible things about Israel,
right,
which we consider anti-Semitic. But that's not the heart of what we do. The heart of what we do is looking at the way that rhetoric actually impacts anti-Jewish hostility, acts on the ground, things like assault, things like vandalism and suppression of speech, actually hurting, materially, substantively hurting Jewish and pro-Israel students on campus because of this animus towards the Jewish state.
I understand, as a student, as an adult, people that don't like your ideology. I see that on campus with myself. People that know who I am, know what I stand for, as I believe, a conservative individual that really, appreciates our Judeo-Christian traditions and ideas, and those ideas inform my thinking. And of course, people that do not embrace Judeo-Christian principles upon which this country was founded oftentimes hate me for that. So, it's one thing to give a person a dirty look, but what we're seeing is violent attacks on Jewish students and on students that support Jewish students. And I think that is absolutely dreadful. I want to talk about this issue of Zionism. I noticed that in your article, you entitled it Anti-Zionist Attacks at Universities and How They've Increased. I'd like us to define for the audience, because they hear this word Zionism too. And for them, for people that are just tuning into the show, they hear that word Zionism and it could have a pejorative or a negative, just hearing the word could be, a negative element, a negative thought. And I think it's important to define it. How would you like to define it, Tammy?
Well, there's Zionism is really the aspiration of the Jewish people for a Jewish homeland.
Okay.
And it's been part and parcel of Judaism. I mean, what we think of as Judaism from the Bible, right? From the get-go.
We're not talking
about, is there political Zionism that arose with Theodor Herzl? Of course. But this basic aspiration of Jews throughout their history from the get-go is part and parcel of what it means to be a Jew. Now, there are anti-Zionist Jews, right? And there are anti-Zionist individuals. So that is
let's not get
aspiration.
Let's not get into that.
Of Jews for a homeland.
Right.
Now, when it comes to anti-Zionism, it is as it sounds. It is against that aspiration, right? We're not talking about criticizing the existing state of Israel for its settlement policy, let's say, or because you don't like the Likud government or Netanyahu, or you think that Israel, violates the civil rights of X, Y, or Z. That's not what we're talking about. That's called criticism, and I wouldn't call that anti-Zionist, and I certainly wouldn't call it anti-Semitic. What anti-Zionism is, in the same way that there's an aspiration for a Jewish homeland, anti-Zionism is the complete opposition to the existence of a Jewish homeland.
So
That's what anti-Zionism is.
Yes.
It says this state this entity, should not exist.
Right.
It has no right to exist.
So as a political scientist, I've always referred to Zionism in the language that I would use is the self-determination of the Jewish people to reestablish themselves in a land area, in a region of the world in which they have a covenant. Now, people say they don't believe the Bible. Well, if you don't believe the Bible, okay. So we can look at the historical record. But I would like to just set this up a little bit more, if I may, Tammy.
Sure, Denise.
So first of all, to people that are listening to this broadcast, I think we need to say, because many of them are Christians, we need to say that there was a covenant that was, if they read their Bible as Christians, they believe the Bible, the Torah, the first 5 books of Moses, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, and land was given to the chosen people, the early Israelites, the Jewish people. And that land if you're a believer as a Jew or a Christian, that land belongs to the Jewish people. And it's far more extensive than what Israel is today. I mean, actually, if you go back and read the scriptures, Israel is only in a small sliver of a piece of what actually God covenanted with the Jewish people. So that's number one. Number two, from a political science perspective, Zionism has to do with a historical precedent. There was a kingdom of Israel. There was a state of Israel. And when Israel returned as Jewish people over the last 3,000 years, continued to live there and abide there. And as more began to come back in the 1800s and the 1900s, we see, of course, a reestablishment or a reclaiming of that homeland. Really, it was reclaimed, reestablished, and that's just part of the historical record. So there's historical precedents, there's a spiritual aspect to this, a biblical aspect. And so what people are telling us that say that they're anti-Zionists, they're telling us, number one, they don't believe the Bible. That's number one. Number two, they're not accepting the historical record, which has been recounted and well documented by sources who lived in that day. And of course, we know that the archaeologists and others have literally found all kinds of things that point to the kingdom and the statehood of Israel. And so, you know, I think it's important that people understand that this anti-Semitism, this anti-Zionism is also really an insult and shows tremendous discrimination towards the Jewish people who have a right to reestablish themselves and have self-determination. After all, Tammy, we had the Muslim Arabs that came out of the Arabian Peninsula. How many Muslim Arab states are there today?
22.
Well, some say 22, some say 23. The point is they've experienced self-determination. And the Muslim Arabs that lived in the Palestinian Mandate, of course, realized self-determination in Jordan. Jordan is a majority Palestinian state. So I think it's important to realize that that individuals that are attacking the Jewish people are also attacking Christians and their belief and faith in the Torah, the first 5 books of Moses. Would you agree with that?
I couldn't agree more.
Thank
and
you.
as a believing Jew who also is, feels that this, this is part of, everybody, let me step back and say, the things that you're raising are definitely true, and they're also access points. There are ways in which different people, let's say Jews, but also Christians, that different people can have a relationship with Israel that is different, right?
Right.
And even for Jews, some Jews, like myself, relate to Israel as a religious and a spiritual place,
right?
This is
right.
This is why
Jerusalem, the Temple Mount.
I do is because
Yes.
I believe in the Bible, I believe in God, and so that's why I do what I do. It's very much, and I just want to add one more sort of fine point to what you said about the spiritual reasons for a connection to Israel, is that for Jews it's not just about, well, this is our privilege, this is we're the covenanted people, and this is our birthright. That's not it. It's that there is that Judaism, that the relationship to the land and the relationship to God and the relationship to the Jewish people, those are three
inseparable.
I would say that it's a three-legged stool. All of those things are essential, and Judaism rests on those things. It's not that Israel is not just an entity it's not just a gift, right? It is a gift. Obviously, it's a gift. Just like Torah is a gift, but it actually is at the heart of who we are and what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to be a light unto the nations. We have a religious mission. We have a relationship to God, and that this is the way in which and without Israel, without that place, that it's not the same. It's just not the same. So yes, some Jews relate to Israel on a religious basis. Some Jews relate to Israel on a historical basis. Well, this is the place where my ancestors lived, and of course I have a historical connection because I have historical connection to my people. And there's some people who relate to it on sort of an ethnic. This is, well, Jews in America or wherever they are. They have a connection to Israel because half the world's Jews live in Israel, right?
Right.
Many people have family in Israel. I mean, literally, think about that. Half the world's Jews live in Israel. So there's a demographic incentive, right? But and also because of anti-Semitism. Some people believe, and especially in the 19th century when there was a movement to reestablish this Israel as the Jewish homeland and as a state, as a formal state, which is what people did in those days. You have nation states, right? So that's what you did in the
1900s. People were thinking about nation statehood, right? Absolutely.
Right, exactly. So some people are relate to Israel as a safe haven against anti-Semitism, and it has to exist. If God forbid the state of Israel didn't exist, no Jew on the planet is safe, and I believe that as well. But there's a fourth, I'd say, sort of way of relating to Israel. These are not by any means mutually exclusive. There's a political connection that there are people who just feel that as a Jewish democracy and the only democracy in the Middle East, that Israel is hugely important in the world,
right? And
they're politically in favor. They're pro-Israel, as we would say.
Well, they're certainly important and critical to the United States, and of course the tremendous amount of intelligence sharing and military work we do. All of that is extremely important. I'd like to direct my audience to a thought you were expressing a little bit earlier about how the issue of the land and why Jews have lived there in the land for 4,000 years, despite attempts at annihilation of the Jewish people in the Middle East. I think it's important that people understand that connection, again, is rooted for those believers in the scriptures, because Jerusalem, while not mentioned in the Quran, Jerusalem is not mentioned in the Quran, but it is mentioned in the Torah, in those holy scriptures, over 700 times. So the whole idea of Jerusalem and places like Hebron, where the patriarchs are buried, and other places throughout Israel, these are these are literally part of the historical the historical relevance of why that land is so important. There's nowhere we can walk inside the state of Israel today that doesn't have some sort of biblical significance that we can point to in the Holy Scriptures. Period. Let's talk about AMCA a little bit more. I was concerned that in another piece that I read, you forwarded something called 75 organizations call for a statement condemning faculty vote to suspend Israel's abroad program. I understand that the universities want to close down any kind of study programs abroad in Israel. They want to impede faculty members from doing collaborative research, and Israel does a tremendous amount of research in cancer, of course, throughout the medical field, in all the sciences, Israel's active, and they want to impede that kind of collaborative research. I thought that was incredible. It says here they want to interfere with the equality of treatment of all applicants for admissions to graduate programs. They want to cancel or shut down events featuring Israeli leaders and scholars, and they refuse to write letters of recommendation for their own U.S. students who want to pursue studies in Israel, which, by the way, I am a victim of. I wanted to do some research and work in Israel, and my political science professor at the time, and this was several years ago, of course, but he would not write me a letter. And,
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's right here in Kern County, and I could say his name, but I'm not going to. But, what are we going to do about this? What's AMCA doing about this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I just want to put that into a little bit of perspective for your listeners, because what you're talking about and what we wrote about and what we've actually launched a major campaign to fight it's called the academic boycott of Israel.
Yes.
And an academic boycott, you may have heard of an economic boycott, like divestment.
Right.
There's a movement that actually was established by a group of many, over 100 Palestinian non-governmental organizations, NGOs, led by the PLO and a few other organizations, including Hamas, that actually in 2004 established what's called the Palestinian National Boycott Committee, or BDS Committee. And BDS stands for, it's an acronym that stands for boycott, divesting, which is the divestment of holdings, financial holdings, stock, etc., from countries, from, in this case, from Israel, or from businesses that do business with Israel, and sanctions, calling for the sanctioning of Israel.
Right.
And the movement is known as BDS, the BDS movement. So we have an economic boycott, we have a cultural boycott, trying to make sure that different artists and writers don't perform or speak in Israel. That's part of the cultural boycott. But then there is this, I think, the most pernicious of all boycotts, which grow out of this virulently anti-Zionist movement, whose purpose is, the BDS movement, its purpose is to destroy the Jewish state, is to dismantle the Jewish state.
Right.
That all of its founders have been quite clear from the get-go that the purpose of this boycott, yes, it's non-violent, it's not terrorism, but it certainly is designed to weaken Israel so that terrorism will work.
Right.
And that we actually destroy Israel. So make no mistake, this is about destroying Israel. And the people who founded this are unabashedly say that. So we have this movement.
The BDS movement. BDS movement,
we have the BDS movement, and we have this boycott. Besides the economic, cultural boycott, we have this academic boycott. And the academic boycott focuses, and the reason that we say it's the most pernicious is because it is the only place that you can have an academic boycott is in a university. Right, that's what it is.
Right.
It's making sure that your university doesn't have any connections, any linkages to Israeli academic institutions, or doesn't bring. But it's not just that. You can't bring scholars from Israel, if they're connected in some formal way to the university, to speak on campuses in the
on
U.S.
Anything, right.
But it goes further, because if you think about it, and it's also as we see the negative side is that you won't have students. You won't, just like it happened to you. You won't have students go to study in Israel, right? Let's say they're studying Middle East studies and they want to focus on Israel. Well, the professor won't write a letter of recommendation for you to go.
Right.
Or as in Pitzer, they actually vote to shut down the one program that sends students to Israel.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't only hurt Jewish students, of course, it hurts any student or faculty member who wants to study in or about Israel. But it goes further than that, because it's not just about blocking these linkages with universities and scholars. It's also trying to shut down the flow of information about Israel.
Right.
Anything that portrays Israel in a positive light is prohibited under the boycott.
I think
right?
I've experienced that as someone that's been on the university campus and the college campus, and that is very true. And there are students on campus, a lot of them are the Muslim students, and they will literally go out of their way to formally complain about you because you have said something that they considered positive as opposed to being negative about the state of Israel. We've got to begin to wrap things up. So
yeah, I just wanted to talk for a moment,
Okay.
if I could, about the big success that we had
Yes, that's what-
recently, in
right.
fact, just today,
Right.
which is that we, in this campaign to actually address the academic boycott of Israel, but by means of showing that it's not about Israel. It's really about U.S. students and faculty who want to study in or about Israel, and to show how morally reprehensible it is for faculty to embrace such a boycott that hurts their own students, that hurts their own colleagues. So we sent letters to 250 university presidents across the country asking them to acknowledge that this hurts their own students, the academic boycott hurts their own students, and to condemn it in the strongest possible terms. And the first success we had came actually yesterday. It was a statement from signed by all 10 of the chancellors at the University of California, saying that this is, that they condemn the academic boycott of Israel, and in particular, how it hurts students and faculty at the University of California.
let me read this statement. Ladies and gentlemen, this is incredible that this has come out. I mean, I believe, Tammy, this is truly incredible and really an important achievement for AMCA. It's
Thank you.
All 10 UC chancellors, ladies and gentlemen, here have signed a statement declaring that the academic boycott of Israel, quote, poses a direct and serious threat to the academic freedom of our students and faculty, end quote. I wanted to say congratulations on that, Tammy. That is quite an achievement.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is important for you to understand, because what is happening on university campuses is spilling over into the streets of America. I mean, we just saw, in fact, I mentioned to you on the phone the other day, Tammy, a couple of gentlemen on their way to services in Los Angeles. I shared it on my show, and a man by the name of Mohammed, first name, last name Mohammed, tried to run them down and murder them on the streets of Los Angeles. And this was in a nice neighborhood where there was a synagogue located, and they're walking to services, to pray and read the Holy Scripture and worship God. And I just, it's incredible to me, but I know that at UCLA, USC, I've taught at the University of California, Irvine, they're not always very friendly places, to Jews or Christians for that matter. But anyway, Tammy, I'll give you the final word on this. How would you like to leave the audience today? With what thought?
Well, I would encourage them to actually get involved in our efforts, because I do think that they're linked to all of the other things that are happening on campus. I think comes back to this basic bigotry, this basic hatred, right? That is what is motivating this academic boycott. But it motivates everything. It's the same hatred. It just has different ways that it manifests itself. And that if we can get to the bottom of this, if we can uncover it for how very morally reprehensible it is, I think that we actually have a chance of turning this all of it as frowned.
Well, bottom line, universities should be all about freedom of thought, and people should be able to express that thought, and there should be an opportunity to share intellectual thoughts and ideas about other countries and with people from other countries without feeling like you might get beat up on your way to your car after class at night. I mean, there just absolutely needs to be this opportunity to freely learn and discuss the issues without being concerned about getting, as I said, possibly killed because you're beaten up, having your property destroyed, your car broken into, your car stolen. I mean, it's ridiculous, and there needs to be sanity back on the campuses here in California and across the country. And I'm so glad, Tammy, that, ladies and gentlemen, Tammy Rossman Benjamin, working diligently over the last several years to try to establish certainly freedom for Jewish students. And I would like to add to that by doing so, she's helping Christian students too, because she's calling attention to the lack of freedom and fairness on university campuses. Tammy, contact me anytime you want to come back on the program and you've got something you need to share or you want to get out to the audience. We really appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks, Denise. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. Be well.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we go to break, I was going to share with you real quick, one thing that stunned me about UCLA was seeing a student that, this was a Muslim student, I believe he was part of the Muslim Student Association on campus, and he had literally rewritten the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America, literally rewrote it, and was on YouTube sharing it out to everybody there at UCLA, walking around campus, giving out a new Pledge of Allegiance to Islam. There's a real attack on the Jewish students. There's a real attack on Christian students. There is a tremendous attack on our Judeo-Christian values, and we need to wake up to it. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back. We have so much more here on More Local Issues. See you in a moment.
I want to tell you about a place I love to go. Frugatti's Italian Restaurant. Very few locations here provide seating outside in front of a fabulous water fountain with an atmosphere that is reminiscent to me of eating outdoors in Venice. This is real Italian food by real Italians. And what makes it even more so is owner Ralph Frugoletti, who nearly a quarter century ago brought a wood fire oven from Milan, Italy to make, like his mother, fresh homemade bread and pizzas. Moreover, Frugatti's Restaurant offers you not only the very best in Southern Italian cooking, even importing the finest ingredients for authentic Italian food, including a fitness menu. After all, Ralph has represented the United States and Italy, competing in the Master Championship Games. He knows all the right food for good fitness, so check out the menu. After today's broadcast, run over to Frugatti's Italian Restaurant and Catering at 600 Coffee Road here in Bakersfield. And after a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday service, stop into Frugatti's for a great lunch. I'll see you there, and tell Mr. Ralph Frugoletti that Denise sent you. Salute. Buon appetito.
Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to legal matters, contact Barb Reynolds. She is a contract paralegal to lawyers, and she will take good care of you. Moreover, she is a Kern County legal document assistant to pro per litigants. She has 47 years of paralegal experience, and for over 30 years has been an educator in the field of law and paralegal work. If you need help handling your adoption, bankruptcy, civil suit, divorce, debt consolidation, evictions, immigration, or attorney referrals, contact Barb Reynolds if you want to win your case. Call Tehachapi Court Services today at 661-822-1994. Barb is simply the best. Call Tehachapi Court Services today at 661-822-1994. Ladies and gentlemen, remember we heard about all those liberals that needed a safe place on campus after President Trump was elected? It's incredible to me. It's incredible to me that liberals have to have their safe space, but they can't give Jews and Christians a safe place on campus. And I think that is absolutely incredible. I think it's incredible that I was protested at the University of California, Irvine, when at a time when I had top secret clearances and done a lot of work on Islamic terrorism, which was why UCI hired me at the time to teach, because of my background, what I had been doing all through graduate school and after graduate school. And, trying to talk about it on a college campus or on a university campus, was so offensive to individuals that did not embrace Judeo-Christian values, because what did they say? Well, you know what they said. They said, well, people aren't terrorists that blow people up. That's important. It's war. The holy war. It's jihad. We have to do it. We're not terrorists. We're freedom fighters. We want to spread Islam from one end of the earth to the other. That's what we're called to do. That's what the Quran tells us to do. That's what we're going to do. And we're certainly not terrorists, and we don't appreciate you. To which I'm responding, but I am from the Western world, and I do embrace our Western world values. And according to our Western world values, and of course here in the United States, our Judeo-Christian values, we absolutely believe you don't go around murdering people for a political point or a religious point or both. The Palestine Liberation Organization, which has been on campuses here in California and in other campuses across the country, the PLO is all about, let's make a point, and we're going to make that point through terrorism, either for the purposes of Islam or for nationalism. And I really want to say, in all sincerity and seriousness, that the whole point of the establishment of the PLO in the early 60s under the leadership of Gamal Abdel Nasser, who was the dictator of Egypt at that time in the 50s and 60s. Handsome Egyptian dictator, very cruel and barbaric, handsome man. One of the things in establishing the PLO, the whole point was to work towards the annihilation of the Jewish people. I don't know why Western leaders in Europe and here in the United States ever came to believe that first under Yasser Arafat and now under Mahmoud Abbas there would ever be peace between Muslims and Jews, because for the Muslims, once they've established a mosque in a location, that's theirs. And as far as they're concerned, that's theirs forever. It doesn't matter that the Temple Mount had the Ark of the Covenant, and it was built twice, and it was there long before any mosque, long before Islam. Islam didn't come around, remember. Islam is considered a contemporary religion because it didn't sort of evolve or develop until the 7th century AD or CE, Common Era. It didn't happen until at that point. So it's considered a contemporary ideology. And unfortunately, it's been a contemporary ideology that's led to individuals who truly embrace that in all of its aspects will also embrace the idea of jihad or holy war. And this is what it's about. And Muslims have always attacked Jews. The politically correct historians and individuals like to say, Jews lived at peace in the Middle East. Well, I can cite you many historical accounts that have been written by individuals that lived during that time. I've bought the books and I've done the research. That was my area of specialty in grad school. So I've done it, and there are plenty of accounts, and there's accounts, many accounts. There's books of accounts about how Jews were treated in the Muslim world. And it was fairly peaceful as long as they maintained their status as Dhimmis, Dhimmi, you feel free to look it up, as long as they maintained a very lowly, humble station and literally sort of bowed in the presence of Muslims and never fought back, never sought to defend themselves, but knew their position in society and kept to themselves, and oftentimes were kept in a specified area. It was called the Jewish quarter, and there were Jewish quarters in these Muslim countries, and they stayed there and died there. So it's not at all what you would think. And Muslims can scream about Palestinian rights all day long, ladies and gentlemen, but if you go to Israel, Palestinians have rights. There are Palestinians that have become Israeli citizens. There are Israelis who consider themselves to be Palestinian, and they've gone to the university and they live in beautiful homes and they have beautiful professional jobs. You know, it depends on how they choose to live and what they want to make of their life. If they want to live their life as a jihadist, they can, and they do. And they sign up for Hamas, the Islamic Resistance Movement, or the Palestine Liberation Organization, or 50 other terrorist groups that are operating in the region. But it's up to them. And, you know, speaking of these individuals, and the individuals, our students on campus that whined and complained about needing safe spaces, safe places on campus, I wanted to point your attention to further intolerance by the left, further intolerance by liberal progressives. Get ready to play this clip by the DNC chair. I wanted to share this with you, ladies and gentlemen. The Democratic National Committee chair, Tom Perez, lamented the influence of churches on voters. And he said that it's difficult for the Democrats' message to quote unquote penetrate because Christian voters quote unquote buy what they hear. That I thought, wow, it isn't so much that liberals are ignorant. It's just that they know so many things that aren't true, right? I mean, liberals don't understand what's true and what's false because they don't take the time to do the research. I mean, when I sit in church and I listen to a pastor speak, I look at it and I think about it and I look at the scriptures and I feel like I'm evolving in my faith, but I don't just take it and quote unquote buy it because that's what I heard. And I thought, and maybe the reason why the Democrats' message doesn't penetrate, because maybe some Christians don't support the Democratic message. Like, for example, Democrats here in Sacramento are considering taxing us for texting on our phones. It's not enough that we have to pay, our phone carrier. Is that right to say phone carrier? Our network? Our provider. It's not enough that we pay our provider, but the Democrats are talking about taxing all of us so that low-income residents have access to texting. This is called income redistribution. It's what the Democrats and the socialists, it's what Barack Hussein Obama, it's what Chucky Schumer, it's what Nancy Pelosi want. It's what Kamala Harris wants. It's what Beto O'Rourke, what's his name? Francis Hudson O'Rourke. He's now to Beto or Beta. I just can't get over that state regulators say that this will raise $300 million in 6 years so we can pay for other people to have the service. I don't want to pay for other people to have a service. I have enough on my plate, paying all my own bills and paying the bills of someone close to me that needs help. I mean, I'm already helping family. You probably are already helping family too. And you probably, if you have established business or career, I have a payroll to meet also as an independent broadcaster. So, I don't want to be taxed so that some person that didn't want to maybe go to vocational school or tech school or they didn't want to get a college education. Maybe they didn't even want to get a high school diploma, and now I'm supposed to pay for them because they made choices in life that set them up. You know, we all have to make choices. I had a student in class talk about how she works at Jack in the Box, and I said, well, you know, you really need to think seriously about moving forward in life and looking at the careers available through possibly vocational education courses. Go to Bakersfield Adult School, check out the list. Look at all the tech ed classes. There's lots of things available that will provide a certificate of accomplishment that people can take and then go get another job. In vocational ed or tech ed right now, we've got robotic engineering classes, I know, at Bakersfield Adult School. There's all kinds of things that are available now. The President of the United States, he has spent put a tremendous amount of effort and time and resources into directing federal agencies to steer spending towards distressed communities across the country that would encourage this kind of vocational or tech ed if people aren't interested in going to college. And it's really important. But anyway, I know I've gotten way off the track. Let's go back to the DNC chair. This is incredible to me that the Democrats leader, the leader of their committee, the National Committee for Democrats, the Democratic National Committee chair, Tom Perez, says, and we all have to make sure that we are fluent in what is happening across our ecosystem so that we can come to each other's defense, because we need to build a bigger orchestra. They have a big orchestra, and they have got the megaphones to amplify it. Why? Because we're in our churches? I don't understand that. Anyway, he says, talking about the pulpit, he says, for most of the people I know, their principal sources of information are Fox News, the NRA newsletter, and the pulpit on Sunday. Well, this article about Trump steering more money to opportunity zones in the country to help lift people out of poverty, this comes from the New York Times, a liberal newspaper. But I check it out. Usually every day. I usually check it out every day. So this is from the New York Times, and the economic security is national security, which is a piece I'm not going to get to, comes from Real Clear Politics. I mean, I get so much information from so many different sources. U.S. World and News Report on California considering a tax on text messages. Tom Perez, DNC chair. I look at a lot of different sources to uncover information that I think is relevant to my audience, to my listeners, what I think is important, what I think my producer might consider interesting or important, and something that he wants to stand against and maybe make a phone call. Let's listen to what the DNC, Tom Perez, what he has to say about our churches.
And we all have to make sure that we're fluent in what's happening across our ecosystem so that we can come to each other's defense. Because we need to build a bigger orchestra. They've had a big orchestra for some time, and they've got the megaphones to amplify it. Whether it's Sinclair at a local level, Fox at a national level. I've learned this from the outreach we've done at the DNC. Why aren't we penetrating, I asked. And I had someone in northwestern Wisconsin tell me, you know what? For most of the people I know, their principal sources of information are Fox News, their NRA newsletter, and the pulpit on Sunday. And it should come as a surprise to no one that our message doesn't penetrate. It should come as a surprise to no one that that person has elevated the issue, of course, to the top, because that person on the pulpit is saying, ignore everything else that this person has done and is doing. We have to focus on one issue of Roe versus Wade. And people buy it because that's their only source.
Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people voted for President Trump, not only because of the fact that they understood that this president is a very pro-life. Actually, when you look at what President Donald J. Trump has done for the pro-life movement, it is tremendous. And he did a lot starting on day one of his presidency. And I don't have a list of all of the things that he accomplished, but I have a file with a list of all the things that he has done with respect to the pro-life movement, and it is incredible. And more than George W. Bush, more than George Herbert Walker Bush, the late Bush, President 41. A lot of people voted for Trump also because of his Supreme Court picks, because they believed that he would choose people, because he said he would, and he kept his word, that he would pick judges that would replace individuals that really were not judicial activists, that were strict constructionists and looked at the Constitution based on the original intent and what it meant and what it stood for. And a lot of people voted for him for that also. A lot of people also voted for him because he said, and he has been doing it, making our nation's national security strong again by rebuilding the United States military, the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, the National Guard. He's been rebuilding it and building the kind of equipment and technology and doing the kind of research. And like Tammy was talking, we were talking with Tammy, the Israelis and the United States do a lot of, information and technological sharing with respect to the latest military equipment. So, again, this certainly is not, I think, a friendly attitude to take by the Democrats towards the faith community in the United States. I just, it deeply concerns me. So let's take a break and we'll wrap things up. I have a few more interesting things I want to share real quick before we close the show. We will be right back.
President Trump has correctly stated that economic security is national security, and in the Tehachapi Mountains of Kern County resides a United States defense contractor, Denice Products. Here is the Silicon Valley of the aerospace industry, right here in East Kern. Denice Products is a forward-leaning manufacturer and distributor of hardware sold to major defense and aerospace companies. We're talking about Boeing, Lockheed Martin, United Technologies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon General Electric, and on the list goes, as well as to every United States ally worldwide, including Israel, America's most important strategic ally in the Middle East. And for everything that flies, Denice Products is providing the parts. And with me today is the president of Denice Products, Scott Baker. Hi, Scott.
How you doing?
Scott, tell us why you believe this corner of Kern County is the hub of the aerospace industry.
Well, this portion of Southern California here out in the Antelope Valley, it contains, some of the most cutting-edge technology going on in aviation today. We have some of the UCAS programs with unmanned technologies going on. We have Edwards Air Force Base out here who's doing continual testing in their area. We have the Naval Weapons Station up there at China Lake doing some fantastic cutting-edge stuff, cruise missile technology, and those things are going on. We have Scale Composites locally doing a lot of composite technology, which is new. We have SpaceX, which is a private one, putting a private entity putting things into space now. This area is the growth center for aviation's future, and this is the area I think that as a nation we need to be concentrating some of our effort and taking this technology. And as we all know, with the space program from Apollo years ago, out of these technologies, we the private sector are going to reap some of the benefits of that.
Thank you, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Baker, president of Denice Products. Denice Products, located in the beautiful mountains of Tehachapi, California, in eastern Kern County, is home to some of the most innovative and specialized technologies in the world, including those at the U.S. Naval Air Warfare Center, Weapons Division at China Lake, Edwards Air Force Base, as well as Strata Launch, launching satellites capable of delivering multiple orbits in a single flight to space. And it is Anate's products that has provided the manufactured devices. And the president, Scott Baker of Anate's products, Marine Corps veteran, reactivated on 9/11 to monitor threats to the homeland, is carrying on a tradition of providing for the security of the United States by manufacturing every kind of fastener on anything that flies, as well as providing a full testing destructive laboratory. Contact Anate's products, now in business for 30 years, at 661-822-6873. Located at 1314 Goodrich Drive in Tehachapi for your manufacturing and testing needs today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Denise Gary Show. As we close out the broadcast today, wanted to share a couple things. A reminder about orphan children that are attending school in the country of Pakistan. I had on, I know it was difficult to hear and understand, but I had from Pakistan the principal of a Christian school, very impoverished little Christian school, that this is a man that wanted to help these children, because oftentimes the parents just have to put them to work. And you know, we've done this here in America too. I've heard stories about, you know, people here in the United States where the children got out there and worked alongside the parents because, you know, everybody needed to eat. And you know, we've now have child labor laws, but, you know, not every country has child labor laws. Not every country has laws to protect children from brutality or you know, the kind of horrendous things that children, you know, once experienced here in our own country. And I think that it's important to help these Christians living in Muslim-dominant Pakistan, where some of them, their parents have been killed. I read a story by an individual that literally follows the persecution of Christians in Muslim countries. And this one young man's story, he indentured himself. He became a slave laborer for a Muslim family for 2 years because he wanted to get married. This is a Christian man and he wanted to get married. So, you know, he bonded himself. He worked for this man, this family. And at the end of the 2 years, he was supposed to be paid. And with that, he wanted to marry his fiancée and have a nice, well, I say nice. For us, it wouldn't be nice, but, you know, for them, a decent place to live. And when it got to the end of the 2 years, he went, you know, he had served his time and he was supposed to get a certain amount. And the man said, "You're not getting it," accused him of blasphemy. The next thing we know is that the man has been beaten to a pulp and killed. So, you know, his bride-to-be lost the love of her life because he was a Christian. This is often how disputes are settled in Muslim-dominant countries, when Christians maybe will literally, in fact, sell themselves for a period of time, hoping that with the wages that they will be able to receive after doing that assignment of work will then allow them the freedom to go on and do something else. And sometimes they don't live through it or after it, and it's extremely sad. We've got those accounts. So this school, for these children, these little Christian children, they desperately need an education. They desperately need it. it'll be the one thing that can help save them in life. And they need everything. They need books, English books. He's teaching them English, or he has teachers teaching him English. We could tell he was having a difficult time. But you know, in Pakistan, there's Arabic and Urdu and different languages spoken, dialects spoken. Like India. India has, 18 dialects spoken in that country. Anyway, there's just a lot. But if you could help, if you could send something, anything that would be a blessing to that school to help those children. He also provides them a uniform, which could be the only real decent clothing they have. They provide with a school uniform and food. So I hope you'll see that. I hope you'll write it down. We're going to keep putting it up because I'm hoping that he gets the resources that he needs. And I'm sure he hasn't even begun to share with me all of the things that he needs. I looked at the photographs of the school and, you know, it's a third world country, absolutely. Okay, moving on real quick. I wanted to say that police have been setting up fake Amazon packages and cameras to catch porch pirates. I thought that was great. I wanted to share that out with you. I don't know yet if they're doing it here in California, but it's certainly some of you go through Amazon all the time for different things you want to buy, and I think I wanted to share with you. I'm not buying anything off Amazon because I don't appreciate the kinds of horrific anti-Semitic and pro-jihad books and literature. You know, they were really putting out a lot by Osama bin Laden, really supporting the jihadist message by all the things they had available through Amazon. But anyway, those of you that buy through Amazon, according to the Associated Press, the police have teamed up with Amazon. So you could ask them, Amazon, are you doing this here in California? To install doorbell cameras. Wouldn't that be nice? I just think it'd be great to have a doorbell camera and dummy boxes with GPS tracking devices outside the homes of volunteers. And they've selected locations where crime statistics and mapping of theft locations indicate there is a problem. So I think that's fabulous. So I will say thank you for the efforts of the police. We're talking about the Jersey police in this particular case, and Amazon for cooperating. It says Amazon has attempted to curb porch piracy with the release of Amazon Key, a service which allows couriers to deliver packages inside your home when you are out using a camera and smart lock. Well, I don't think I would ever do that. No, thank you. I'm not interested in Amazon Key, but I do like the idea of installing a doorbell camera. I think that's neat. If I have some extra money, I'm going to do that. I would love to have some kind of tracking service where I see who's approaching my house, especially at night. Anyway, on a happier note, I want to say before we close today, Australia, set to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Australia appears to be on the way to moving its embassy to Israel's capital and recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Other countries, among them the Czech Republic and Brazil, have announced their intention to move their embassies to Jerusalem. And Guatemala and Paraguay, it says, maybe returning it to... Guatemala and Paraguay, it says the United States relocated its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem on May 14th, followed by Guatemala 2 days later. Paraguay also moved its embassy last May, but they have since returned it to Tel Aviv. So bad Paraguay. Paraguay not so good. Let's just cross them off. Okay, our list. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm feeling a little better today. I look forward to being back with you. Hopefully my health will continue to improve. I want to thank Ken Hetke and Della Hetke for being a sponsor. He says he's got lots and lots of work, and I'm so thrilled for him that he has lots and lots of work, and that's great. And if you want to say hello, he's right up there at Tehachapi Municipal Airport at Hangar 51. Thank you, Ken and Della Hetke. I want to give a shout out for Sculpt 365 Fitness, that is owned and operated by Craig Jansen, a former Navy veteran. And again, all of us need to get in shape. I know I do. And so you just call Sculpt 365 Fitness at 679-7116. We want to support our veterans. Give them a call at 679-7116. Again, they have a facility on Chester Avenue and Sage Lane in Tehachapi. Let's support our veterans. Let's support Frugatti's Restaurant. Go there. Tell Ralph Frugaletti you heard his commercial on the Denise Gary Show. This is how we keep our advertisers. Call Barb Reynolds. Let's look up Barb Reynolds' number here real quick. Barb Reynolds' number is 822-1994. 822-1994. Hire Barb Reynolds to be your paralegal, and she'll do a great job for you. She's been in the business for a number of years, and she's also taught the classes. And so she knows the business inside and out, and she's really the expert to help you. And so give her a call. Ladies and gentlemen, I noticed last night before retiring after coming home from a night class, I was so exhausted last night. Only 2 people had shared my show. That was kind of a really important show because of course, what we were talking about with regards to the persecution of Christians. But we talked about, of course, issues really, I think, important to the whole battle that we need to win as Republicans. And suddenly I lost my train of thought. But anyway, the talking points for yesterday, do you remember what those were? I had it and I was going to go for it. Anyway, look back at yesterday's talking points. Share this show. I want you to share the broadcast with people that are Democrats and independents, with liberal progressives. Share the show out so that we can begin to influence others, educate others, inform others. Do you realize that today, one of the reasons I wanted to do that segment with Tammy Rossman Benjamin is because the Democratic Party has really moved, really moved to the far left, and they no longer support the Israeli people, the Jewish people. And I hear that from a lot of different sources. I didn't hear that just from one person. They've really sort of stepped away. When I watched the Democratic National Committee, when Hillary Rodham Clinton was there delivering her speech following the nomination to be the Democratic candidate, or the candidate for president for the Democratic Party, there was a lot of hate signs against Israel. There was a lot of PLO signs. There were or signs that reflected the viewpoint of the Palestine Liberation Organization, a terrorist organization. Just a lot of anti-Israel rhetoric that was right there in plain view, and the cameras picked it up. And I thought, that's incredible. This is the Democratic National Party, and the fact that Perez would attack people of faith. We need to educate Democrats, Hispanics, African Americans. Don't like hyphenating, but I'm doing it to make the point. We've got to reach everybody, and we've got to turn California around to be a Republican safe haven once again. Ladies and gentlemen, have a fabulous evening. I hope everybody has a blessed and a great evening. I've got to now get to work and leave you and go teach another class. And I will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Please make a contribution to Noble Prince. the English name that his parents gave him there in that Muslim-dominant country, very Christian-centered name. Help him as the principal of this school that reaches out and supports the orphan children there in Pakistan. And support me, your independent broadcaster, who to date is still an unpaid, unsalaried individual. Any contribution you would like to make at Christmas time is tax deductible. If you go through PayPal on my website, Strategic Solutions for a New Middle East, Strategic Solutions for a New Middle East, go through that. My 501c3 is the Middle East Initiative. It's an educational foundation. You write a check to the Middle East Initiative and you send it to P.O. Box 82162, Bakersfield, California. You just got a tax write-off. Thank you so much. Share this broadcast with others, and thank you for supporting the Denice Gary Show. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Denice Gary Show. Intelligent Talk Media.